This is Turd Flinging Monkey for TFM News. I'm going to be responding from an article from a website called The Single Dude's Guide, or singledudetravel.com, called Why Dating a Male Feminist is Like Dating a Bitchy Girl by Ann Sterzinger, published September 2nd, 2015. Now this happens to be my third male feminism video. My first one was about a guy who wrote an article about how his wife and him have an open marriage, which is really just one-sided. The woman goes out and gets dick all the time, but he's okay with it because he's a feminist and he doesn't even understand what's really going on. The second video I did was about this article where a feminist gives men 35 steps they can take in their personal life to support feminism, which basically boils down to being a woman's slave. So now that we've established, if you want to be a good male feminist, it means being a slave to women, it means letting your wife or girlfriend have sex with other men. Now I'm going to top this trilogy out by demonstrating that the entire purpose of being a male feminist is completely self-defeating. Now some people have questioned why I bother. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to use logic, reason, and evidence to convince a woman. They just don't think that way. They feel rather than think. Which is why it's kind of a waste of time debating feminists, because even if you win the argument on the merit of your arguments, they'll just start crying and declare themselves the winner, and all the other women, kind of the third parties who are watching the quote-unquote debate, will just agree that you lost because the woman cried and you were mean. That's how women think. You can't reason with them. But men are different. Men can be reasoned with. Men can be convinced through argumentation. So I'm not arguing with feminists. I'm only trying to reason with male feminists because I think there's a slight chance they can be saved. I understand your logic. Let me explain your logic as I see it. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. But you look at yourself and you see that you are not the biggest, strongest, handsomest, or most successful guy. You're not going to get the traditional woman. So you look around the landscape of women and you notice that, okay, you may not be able to compete with your traditional masculine man. Maybe you're very effeminate. You're what I would call a beta. However, these self-described feminist women, they claim to not want the traditional masculine man. They claim that masculinity is evil, that men are scum and rapists, and you reason that this is the kind of woman that might go for you, because you're not masculine. You're not threatening. You're very peaceful and accommodating and gentle and all these things that these feminists say they want because they want men to be like women. And that is what drew you to becoming a male feminist. You want reproductive success. You want to settle down with a woman, have a family, all that stuff. And even though I've shared these other articles with you about this stay-at-home dad that's being cheated on by his wife in the name of feminism, or this feminazi, I mean, there's really no other word for it, giving 35 tips to being a slave. That doesn't faze you because you have your eye on the prize, and your eye is on the women you hope to attract through your being a male feminist, through being the opposite of the masculine douchebag that women say they want, being the nice guy. And what can be nicer than voluntarily submitting to women as a male feminist? Despite their clear fascist undertones, you were willing to submit to that in order to achieve reproductive success. Even if you're cuckolded by your wife, who's having sex with other men, who's using you as a stay-at-home beta bitch, you're willing to make that sacrifice because you view it as your only avenue to reproductive success. Now that's how I see it. Again, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section. However, this third article I'm going to share with you really just pops that bubble, and I know, obviously, life has dealt you a bad hand. And I really don't want to dump on you. I do this out of love. I want to educate you about the futility of this path you're on. It's not going to lead to anywhere you want to go. The long and short of it is feminists really don't want what they say they want, just like women don't really want what they say they want. If you ask a woman what she wants, she's not going to tell you what she really wants, because what she really wants, either she doesn't understand or she's too ashamed to admit. So this article begins at about the third paragraph where this woman is describing why male feminists make absolutely shitty boyfriends. She talks about how they're selfish and lazy in bed. Now again, you have to understand that women expect the man to do everything. A woman will just lay there with her legs open and she will call that like the most amazing sex in the world, and all she did was lay there with her legs open and you did all the work. Now if you're expecting her to do half the work, you're going to be considered a shitty lover. She's not going to be attracted to that. She wants you to do all the work and thank her for the privilege of laying there with her legs open. Also, women resent you forcing them to go Dutch. And even though they say they want equality, they really don't. Feminism really isn't about actual equality. You have to understand that. Women just want the benefits of male authority without any of the responsibility. They want the good stuff that comes with being in charge, being like a man, and having so-called male privilege, which the whole word privilege doesn't even make sense because you're born with it. It's nature. It's not a privilege. Nobody granted it to you. But anyway, the point is they want men to take their traditional responsibilities, but they want them to share their traditional authority. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It's not sustainable, but that's what they want. If you play their game, they'll only hate you. Because when you try to get them to take any responsibility, they're going to resent you for it. So here you have a woman who resents dating male feminists because they demand that she actually pick up half the check. Now then she goes on about how she's been cheated on by male feminists. Now I don't really consider that indicative of male feminism. You'd think a very submissive male feminist man wouldn't be a cheater. In fact, he would probably encourage her to cheat so she can go get her sexual variety. I don't know. But I want to skip that part. She also mentions that male feminists are incapable of having female friends without trying to get them into bed. That you're basically just going along with what's expected of you and this isn't what you really want. The reason why you're doing it is to try to get laid. You're trying to attract a woman for companionship. And they know this. You're not fooling anyone. They're onto your game. They know what you're doing. They know why you're there. You're basically the male equivalent of a gold-digging whore for a man. A woman pretends to be whatever the man wants because she wants to get into a relationship with him so she can get his money. And you are trying to be whatever you think the woman wants, in this case a male feminist, in order to get between her legs. And she knows that's what you're doing. This is why I made that video about sexual entitlement with these nice guys trying to get with girls that they normally wouldn't be able to attract based on their looks or money or whatever. But they think that by being nice to them and befriending them, it's going to get them into their pants somehow. And then when it doesn't work, when they get friend zoned, they get all resentful and they start complaining about how women don't go for the nice guys. They were never attracted to you to begin with. Now, I've gotten some heat on that video. I wasn't bashing men who are just nice guys, like, period. They're just nice people. They're pleasant to be around and they're friendly. That video wasn't about those guys. That video was about guys who use being nice as a mating strategy. They use being nice to girls they normally wouldn't be able to attract to try to get them a one-up on their competition. Like, yeah, I may not be the best looking, I may not be the most successful, I may not be this or that, but I'll be really nice, and then she'll go for me. And then when she doesn't, you get all mad because your plan didn't work. Well, women aren't that stupid. So they know what you're up to, and that's why they don't feel bad about using you. They will use you and discard you, and they won't feel bad about it because they know you were trying to use them. So you're playing a losing game anyway. You've already tipped your hand, and now they're just seeing what they can get out of you until you wise up and move on. Now, in the latter half of the article, the author goes into an interesting direction. Her hypothesis is that these male feminists are actually misogynists, and that's why they're male feminists. They're trying to use male feminism to cover up their hatred of women, which I find absolutely hilarious. Not that I think it's true, but that, remember, women feel rather than think. So if this is the perception you're giving women, these feminists you're trying to get in bed with, and they think you're secretly misogynist and you're just using male feminism to cover it up, you're actually alienating the very people you're trying to ingratiate yourself towards, painting yourself in the worst possible light by doing what they say they want you to do. Again, when you play women's games, you never win. So I'm going to read this paragraph. Quote, "Racism and sexism are bad things, you see. I mean, sure, there are bad things, but they're human emotions, better dealt with than neurotically denied. These twats are too vain to wrap their heads around the notion that there might be any sort of unsavory note in the fine bouquet of their souls. So rather than get help with their little hatred problem, they scream about everyone else's sexism and racism in hopes that no one will see through to the evil in their own hearts. Guys who don't hate women, on the other hand, don't need to throw up such ideological smokescreens. Why would they yip and yap about feminist theory? They have nothing to hide. They tell it like it is. Open the door for you if you like. They help you clean up your kitty litter. Lend a hand when a stranger's car breaks down. They're kind and helpful, whether they think it will get them laid or not. Because they're confident they'll get laid sometime in any case. Because they come equipped with a genuine love for women. Security makes people generous. Hatred makes them shrill. Now, let me translate that for you. Not only are you not fooling anyone, this author is basically admitting that not only is she not attracted to male feminists, not only does she secretly think that they're all misogynist and they're just trying to cover up their hatred of women by being male feminists, she's admitting that she likes a traditional masculine man. If you got into feminism, if you decided to become a male feminist because the women in your life weren't attracted to you because you weren't that masculine, and you thought that being a simping feminist was going to ingratiate yourself to them, you're wrong. Women don't go for that, ever. You can't trick biology. Just like in my sexual entitlement video, I talked about these fat chicks who are using, anti-fat shaming and body positivity so that men will find fat women attractive. Well, it's never going to work. They can't override biology. It's just the way it is. Men aren't attracted to fat chicks. I mean, you have the odd one that is. You have the chubby chaser, for whatever reason, has a fat fetish. They're very, 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 very rare. And just like that, there are women who might be attracted to very effeminate men. And they are also very, 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 very rare. Now, if you are a fat woman, you have the luxury of not eating so damn much and losing weight and becoming more attractive. If you are an effeminate man, there's really not a lot you can do about your biology. Now, I'm not saying go MGTOW or become an MRA or any of that stuff. If that stuff appeals to you, then go. If you want to pursue true gender equality, you probably will find yourself in the MRA camp sooner or later. If you figure out that women aren't worth it, that you're better off alone focusing on your own dreams or goals, maybe MGTOW was better for you. Now, this is just real talk. I understand that this isn't going to appeal to a lot of you. And I understand if you were raised by a single mother, maybe you've just been completely indoctrinated and you really think that this is going to create a better world. And you're not doing this for the pussy. I think most of you are, though. And as someone who was raised by a single mother, I understand that indoctrination can carry you pretty far. But eventually, life contradicts the indoctrination, and you have to question it. I mean, you are a man. You are gifted with a brain that understands logic and reason and evidence. So use that brain, look at the world around you, and ask yourself, is this really what you want? Is going for feminists who demand you be a slave, who will cheat on you and cuckold you, and they will reject you for the very men they claim that they're opposing? The masculine men, the traditional man, the gender roles, all the bullshit they spout, that's ultimately what they're going to go for, because that's the way they're wired. They can't fight their biology any more than we can. You can't just take a pill and be attracted to fat chicks, and women can't take a pill and be attracted to effeminate men. And if you're an effeminate man, I do feel sorry for you. You were dealt a shitty hand, and I apologize. On behalf of nature, I apologize. But nature's not fair. So if that's the hand you were dealt, you need to maximize your success. And your success is not going to be found by becoming a male feminist or by continuing to be a male feminist. There's nothing but pain on that road. Do you want to end up like that stay-at-home dad getting cheated on? Do you want to really be a slave? Anyway, this is Turd Flinging Monkey signing off.